So last week, we got demos from Zoltan and Lizers in shape components. Shape components, or whatever it was not how to use shapes as Angular components. Just saying, Gabo, because your tweet was mentioning that it was not that. So I think the wording was unfortunate. They were like Angular components. They are not Angular components. And William suggested demo about Blazor WebAssembly. So today demos. William said you will do a demo.
Yes, I'll do a demo today.
Okay. How long do you think it will take?
Maybe 5 minutes. It's not okay. Too long.
Blazor WASM. Anyone else?
You can probably put me down for a demo for next week for following up on the shapes as components thing in Liquid, but I can't stay long tonight. So yeah, next week. I can't stay tonight.
Okay, status. Let's look at the status. Orchard 1. I don't think we merged anything. We didn't. Orchard core. So last week was 25th. So here, nope, maybe this one. Nope, this one. Support for dropping a password from password manager during setup. So apparently, some password managers let you drag and drop a password. I didn't even know we could drag and drop some text into some text box. So the idea is that to change this script, the strength on the setup screen, to also update when something is dropped. So there is an event dropped. And I was afraid that we were using some external dependency for that, but actually no, we built the script manually. So it's not something that we have to change on the source of the dependency. It's a local script. Updating the setup scripts using the Gulp pipeline. Add UI permissions. Clear Botman, who I don't know if he still works with JSON. Oh crap! Our best harvest attendant ever. What's his name? Antoine, help me. South Africa. Gert?
Gert.
Gert, thank you. Used to work with Gert. I assume she still works there, and they were super awesome users of Orchard 1. So happy to see them using Orchard Core now. So add UI permissions based on the user role. Just hiding some buttons based on permissions instead of returning the 401 challenge. Yeah, there were some comments on the PR, remember. That's good. Use SVG background image instead of font pack for the shortcodes. Rename dynamic cache tag helper. So this is a breaking change for whoever is using the cache tag, the Orchard cache tag helper, dynamic cache tag helper. Rename from cache, which was colliding with the default ASP.NET cache tag helper, to dynamic cache. There is no such thing as a better name that we could find. So is this bad dynamic cache? It's not really dynamic, but that's how it is. Even
well,
the
it's
class.
a little bit dynamic because you can mutate the cache afterwards after you've set it.
It has some dynamic behavior, but yeah. Okay, make deployment plans unique. Okay, so I saw an issue, and what is it about? Oh,
So
just name collision?
mostly, yeah, name collisions, because we use dictionaries that are keyed a lot for them when you're exporting them as part of a deployment plan.
Okay.
So it's just making sure that they stay unique.
We didn't add async here.
I might have added an async somewhere, I think.
You added task, but you didn't add the async suffix.
No, because it was an existing method. Probably should have.
You changed the return type, so in whatever way you will have to change your code to await it. So I think you could change the async here also. I don't expect many people to implement iDeploy so far. And it's still breaking. It's still breaking. So whoever was implementing that will still have to change that, even calling it. Remove unused links in workflows documentation. Okay. Yeah, because update package.json for media file upload. So deleted these files and using npm package instead. Okay, looks good. Why did you do that? Did you see an issue, or did you just find that it was wrong and fixed it?
Yeah, reference the test version to update it. And there is another issue created by Isham to validate the client, the size of a file on the client side.
For this plugin? Because we did some change on the server side to prevent the file from being uploaded if it's already too big. But this,
yeah, we made a change server side, but at the time I opened an issue suggesting that it would be good for the UI to client validate it.
Yeah.
Because we can't get a good response out of ASP.NET.
Okay.
When the file size is too big, because of the way Kestrel works. So you still kind of get a 500 error, which is quite deceptive, shall we say.
So we agree that whatever Isham mentioned was just for the client side thing, not changing the server.
Yeah, just to improve the UI there a little bit.
But this PR doesn't do that, right? It's just using npm so far. No, there is no change.
Yeah, no change to the behavior at this point.
Mailing information in the documentation. Okay, link. Let me try that, because there is a site actually specialized for time zones. Interesting. Okay. So the S here, I think, is extraneous. No. Oh, if you say PT, okay, I see. If I say PDT, okay, same thing. That's why I wanted to remove the S. Okay, good. Not a lot, but that's okay. All good. That means we can ship 1.0 if there is no more bug fixes or stuff to ship. We can ship it. Questions, comments? Then demo from William.
Okay, let me share my screen. Oh, wrong screen. Maybe, oh, here we go. Okay, you guys see my screen?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So I was kind of interested in seeing if Blazor WebAssembly would work in conjunction with Orchard. And so I thought, well, this is going to be kind of interesting. So I put together an example, and you can see here, I don't know if you want to go through the code or just want me to run the application, or is there any requests, or how about if I just go run the application here? So let me start
from the application and then you dive in the code.
Okay, so let's go ahead and run it.
So is it a Blazor WASM project? Is it an Orchard module?
Well, Blazor's basically runs in the browser, right? So it's an application that runs in the browser, just like if it was JavaScript. So you can see here's the first page, and this is a Blazor WebAssembly application. But if I go to like blog, so the routing is still working for Angular or for Orchard Core. I go to About, and I can even go into.
So you made a module, or did you add the files in the main project?
Are you talking about the Blazor assembly application?
Yes, in this example.
Well, yeah. So basically, I can show that later.
Okay.
Let me show so that we can go in and log in here. Okay, and so if I go into configuration, going into have GraphQL enabled here. So if you go here, you can see that I have something defined already here. If I go into security, I have OpenID Connect so that I'm making sure that I'm a secure site, right? And so if I go into security here, roles, I have a role set up for API, which has access to the GraphQL API. So I'll go ahead and run the application. And so I can get the token here. If I go ahead and click on this, I have a client ID and I have a secret ID that I have installed into Orchard Core. And so I can do a query on that, and I can get the bearer token here, as you can see. And here's the request body, which is up here. And then here's the body, which is the actual token. And then here's the response header. And of course, you can see it's powered by Orchard Core. And then I can take that token, put it down here in the bearer, and I can add or remove items here. And if I go ahead and click on send, I went ahead and I got bring down a blog post. And so I'm rendering the blog post with MarkDig on the screen here. So it's kind of nice. Everything is run, all this code here is running inside the browser, and it's all in C#. So we're all very familiar with that. So any questions?
Yes. So client ID, what is the client ID?
The client ID?
Yeah, where do you get that value from?
That's part of the Open Connect authentication for a token, for a JWT token.
Yeah,
Right? Okay, here, okay, let's go into Orchard Core.
Because I think I know where you got it from, and I think...
yeah, you should. You guys designed it.
No, Kevin. But I've demoed that also from the console app. That's why I want to be sure. Okay, you made it. Okay.
So here's, yeah, so here's the applications, right?
You made an application.
So
okay,
go here. So here's the client ID, and here's the secret, right? And then I'm allowing the client credential flow, and then I'm setting the API as the role for that. And he has only execution on the GraphQL. If you want to go in there and look, we go into settings.
In this case, I'm not sure that's the best flow for a web app like this. It works, but I'm not sure it's the best flow, because in this case, you have to share with your app. In your app, you have to know the client ID and the secret. It's not in a web app. I think the flow will require an interactive exchange from the client.
I think you could add some functionality in Orchard Core where we don't have to do that, right? So
well, the functionality is here in the OpenID Connect. There are multiple flows. You see, there is the authorization code flow, the refresh token flow, the client credential flow. And I think you need the authorization code flow in this case. But because when I talked to Kevin about which flows to use and how to make the client credential flow, how to use it, for console apps, he said, use the client credential flow for apps, for disconnected apps, well, disconnected, for autonomous apps. But when you're in a web app, maybe it's better to just pop up the user. Oh no, yeah, because it's not the app that you want to authenticate, it's maybe the user. I don't know, maybe it's the app that you want to authenticate. It works, but I'm not sure it's the best one for a web app here. But that's better than no, that's at least I'm sure Kevin will be happy, because that's better than no authentication at all.
Yeah.
Why you will complain? But that works. Okay, that's an application. That's what I wanted to check. It was not a user ID, it was an application ID. Okay, good.
Yeah, so I'm following all the good things for Orchard Core. Maybe not the right ones, but yeah.
That's okay.
So,
and then I had another question. Oh yes, not more of a comment actually. Because I think I saw a video where you showed how to render the markdown, and you mentioned markdig. Can you show the GraphQL query that you're doing? Where is in
the code?
Yes.
Okay.
To render the blog post, because you say you are using markdig, which is by itself interesting because it means markdig works in Blazor WASM on the client side.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, but at the same time, you don't need to do that because GraphQL has a property to give you the process markdown already.
Okay.
Our implementation of GraphQL. So when you ask for the HTML body in the GraphQL query, I don't know if you find it in your code. It's in your code when you render the blog post. You must have code.
So what's nice is that everything is all components. So this is just like Angular. The whole model architecture, component model architecture is just like Angular, which is kind of cool. So here's the code here.
162. Yeah. So here, when you say author publish etc markdown body, instead of markdown body, you can say HTML body, I think, and then you won't get markdown, but you will get a line 162.
162. Okay.
This is your GraphQL query, and if you see display text subtitle author publish etc markdown body, you can also ask for HTML body, and then you won't have to call markdown. You won't need markdown because
so I don't have to call this. You're saying,
yeah, that's why we made it in. We added that explicitly on the GraphQL endpoint for body parts because we know that people might not want to execute Markdown directly. They might want it. They might want the Markdown on the client side, but maybe they just want the HTML already rendered with the URLs and everything. And then in this case, you just ask. So I think if you go to the GraphQL Explorer, you will see the property and you will see the result. But that's still interesting to see that you can process the Markdown on the client side also. Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm using, let's see, this is where I get the token, and then down here is where I do the request, and this is where basically I'm deserializing the JSON file into this API GraphQL structure, which is basically defined right here. So here's the root class, and then you have the data, blog post. And of course, this is the blog post is an array. Then you have the markdown inside here. And so I'm just using the standard, let's see. Yep, right here. And then I basically, the markdown is basically gotten from here. So it's API GraphQL.data.blog post 0, because I'm just looking at the first one, markdown body.markdown. So it follows that structure. And this is where I'm actually doing the rendering here, I guess, is where I'm calling markdig and doing markdown to HTML markdown. So
yeah, that's why I'm saying you don't need this step if you ask for the HTML directly, but you will try it and you will test. And also you are creating a custom class to map the JSON payload to a POCO. I'm not sure, that's nice, but at the same time, it's a lot of boilerplate work to do.
Well,
maybe
you have the function, right? You can copy your JSON file and then paste as C# code, right? So that's done for you automatically.
Okay.
So it's not that hard to do, but yeah, that's how Microsoft decided to implement that, which is kind of interesting because working with XML, I think it's a lot easier back in the XML days when they had the parser there, and then it would give you errors and all of that. So I think the XML worked a little bit better.
You can do the same thing with the JSON document. You can get a dynamic version of the
but there's a big war between Newton JSON and all these new Microsoft
system text JSON. Yeah.
So text. So they're kind of a battle right now, right? A battle royale with some people like this and some people like that. So that's kind of interesting.
Well, the idea is that system text JSON is more integrated and is faster than Newton Soft JSON, but Newton Soft JSON has more features.
I hear stories that Newton's faster than that. So, but I don't know. But
no, it's not. Maybe for whatever system text JSON does, it's faster than Newton Soft JSON.
And there's a lot of limitations too, I hear.
That's why you want to switch to Newton Soft JSON when you don't have the feature in system text JSON. And that's what we do in Orchard Core. We use Newton Soft JSON because we have custom features that we use. Right. And also the DOM of JSON, JObject, JToken, JString, and so on, that are not available yet on system text JSON. So we can't manipulate a JSON document and build one dynamically like this. We can with Newton Soft. That's why we are still using Newton Soft.
Right. And then version 5 has a lot more features. So I heard that's a lot better and quicker.
But not yet what we need in Orchard, which is sad, but that's okay. Okay, all good, very nice. Thank you.
I have a question.
You're welcome.
Did I talk to your Alexa or whatever?
I have Google's talking to me in the background. Is it possible we could start maybe looking at version 5 of .NET, maybe create a branch and start experimenting with that? Because there's a lot of features in Blazor WebAssembly with 5, with the 8 release, the pre-release, or whatever, the update, or whatever they call it nowadays, beta 8 or whatever.
So actually, I pinged Jean-Thierry a week ago, 2 weeks ago about that, because I don't remember if we already created a branch just to be able to test it. it will be obsolete now, because if we created it, it was like in January, so many things have changed. I don't remember if we did it, but we should definitely do it, because it will go GA soon, so anyone should be able to use 5.0, and there should not be many changes to do to support 5.0. And also, I like to see the perf of Orchard on 5.0 to see the differences. So yeah, definitely someone should try to start a branch and try to port everything on 5.0.
So I have another question. A lot of the code that, of course, is in the Blazor WebAssembly conforms to the .NET standard. And I don't know much about version 5. Is that all going to be consolidated? So there won't be no more .NET Standard, .NET Mono, .NET, and .NET Core. Everything will just be .NET. Is that true?
Well, that's a goal, but technically for us, the only thing that it changes is that instead of targeting all our modules to .NET Core App 3.1, we'll target .NET 5.0. That's the only change for us.
So then Blazor WebAssembly, which most of its code is, compiled for .NET Standard, should now be compliant, because like some of the features in .NET Core that I'd like to use in a Blazor WebAssembly app, I can't because it's not compiled to .NET Standard. That's what I'm saying. So hopefully when version 5 comes out, that will be gone.
I see what you mean. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe Blazor didn't change that either. Maybe they're still requiring a .NET Standard 2.0 to or 2.1, I don't know, to ship on the client. I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't think migrating to 5.0 will help in this case. So you won't be able to use Orchard code on the client. That's what I think. Probably. If they require .NET Standard 2.0, that won't be the case, because we require .NET Core App or .NET 5.0, because we have dependency on MVC, which itself is not .NET Standard. So
okay,
that would be an issue.
But there's some libraries that you could convert over to .NET Standard. Is that true? Like some of them that don't use any of that, just like the generic code?
Some Orchard core assemblies, maybe, but I think we did it if we could. But most of them have the same common dependency on the Orchard core DLL, and this one also has dependencies on stuff that is only available in .NET Core App. I think that's the issue. Okay. I'm not sure how many we have that still follow .NET Standard 2.0. I think most of them are targeting .NET Core App now because of this single because there are many things that like HTTP abstractions that are only available on .NET Core App and not .NET Standard.
Okay.
That was one of the issues when we migrated from 2.2 to 3.0 or 3.1. Was the issue. So just create a 5.0 branch. Someone needs to create a 5.0 branch and try starting migrating to 5.0, and just to see, and then if he can help you. But yeah.
Okay, so I have another question. When I started doing this, I got a lot of excitement from a lot of people that are now more interested in Orchard Core, where they can see a Blazor WebAssembly working in Orchard Core. So is that something that Orchard might look into further, or maybe adhere to? I see a lot of excitement. I mean, the videos that I send out are like, 10 times more popular than the ones just regular Orchard Core videos.
Yet you don't see 10 times more websites built with Blazor than Orchard Core directly. My take on that is, I think we don't have to care about Blazor WASM directly, because as you mentioned, it can be in anything. It's just a static files that run on the client, okay, first, which means you can embed it as a module, as static files, or in your main Orchard app, and there is nothing to do for us, or in a different app. So you can build a different web app that is not part of the Orchard Core project that you have. And as you know, you can put it on GitHub if you want. Let's put it on GitHub static pages or Azure static pages. And then you could host Orchard Core as a different app. Okay, and that's so we don't have to care, I think, in Orchard about WASM to make it work. Maybe we want extensibility points or helpers or whatever for WASM, but that, like you did, like how do you connect to a GraphQL endpoint from WASM? Maybe that should be a component, an API, whatever, so that Blazor WASM apps can do it easily, or any client apps could do easily, because a console app might still also want to connect using client credentials to an Orchard app. Okay, so that could be something reusable across Blazor WASM or console apps. Then what I think would be interesting for Blazor WASM is a set of components that can connect directly to Orchard Core. Like, you know, in web forms, you have data lists, data grids, and so on. So you can just put a connection string somewhere, and it will contain all the logic to query data and to render using templates. So what I imagine is that there would be some Blazor WASM components, even maybe in Orchard modules or Orchard packages that could be available for that. And these components, you will use them to build Blazor WASM apps connecting to Orchard Core data. And you just have components like you made, and you just drag and drop the component, you change the GraphQL query or the content type you want to query, and you provide a template to render it. And it will handle for you the loading, the paging, the rendering. So that will be, I think, super useful in terms of what's the name? Productivity. So this way, people will create WASM websites connecting to Orchard Core for the data, or apps connecting to the data.
But what I think is really important about Orchard has this rich backend services that you have, right? And then you have the admin, which is, you know, Razor pages. I see, like, it would be kind of nice with this component module architecture. You could probably take the functionality and put it into a Blazor WebAssembly application, and then you can theme it and do whatever, and then you have it totally isolated between your back end and front end. And I don't know, I think a lot of architects really like that model because of the Angular. That's how Angular works, and other components like that. I don't know what your thought on that is, but then we'd have to have a richer API, and then we could go toward, you know, gRCP, where we could implement that, all the functionality for that with the back end. What's your thoughts on that, Sebastian?
Well, I said if there were some Blazor components that can connect directly to Orchard Core, I think that's what it should be. I think that's a good idea. Now, making our stuff be Blazor components, I don't think it's worth it right now, because it's 5.0 only, because it's a big technical change. So I don't see the point right now.
Yeah, I agree, because, you know, Blazor WebAssembly is pretty much immature. It needs to mature probably another, at least a year at least, or even more, because it doesn't even have a update, you know, automatic update in it. You have to hit a Control F5 now to get things updating. So like hot reload and that, it doesn't have that functionality, and some other functionality is missing as well. So, but I think it might be prudent for us to maybe even look into it more. I think I'm going to look into it more, especially with gRCP, and maybe have some
gRPC
APIs that will work in conjunction with that for the admin. So if you wanted the admin to totally run in a browser, because you may want to be able to do a PWA where you're offline, and you want to do some admin stuff, and then when you reconnect, that information gets, you know, uploaded at a later time. So you have that functionality.
Yeah, but it's totally out of scope for us, and the amount of re-architecturing the data flow to be able to support that will be huge, and testing and everything. So there is no way we can support that. Even more, that I see that as a niche usage, to be able to just edit your content in an offline way and then push data later. So I'd rather focus on client-side components to render data first than editing data. That's the simplest thing to do, and that's the most used thing to do also. So because people will just create web apps by drag and dropping content-based web apps by drag and dropping the connectors to Orchard Core, the thing you did just. So that will be, I think, much more valuable for now and less risky and easier. So should start by that. The same way like Telerik does components, there should be the Orchard Skills WASM components for Orchard Core. And I'm sure that would be great. That would be a great hit. People will just reuse the components to show the data from the website. And then editors will edit the data in the website, but the whatever client app will just use these components to render the data, authenticate, render, page, live change, whatever, template. That would be super useful. I think actually in Orchard One, some people demoed that a few years ago. They made a kit for Xamarin Forms components. They made Xamarin Form components that would connect directly to Orchard. So they would build article websites and news websites using that. And their customers would just edit the content in Orchard, and then they will have a customized app that will connect to this content using the Xamarin Forms component. So this is the same story, and they were very happy with that.
Well, I don't know if you remember this, but there was a product called Visual Web GUI. Did you ever see that? It was a company out of, I think it was somewhere in the Middle East. And you could actually write forms applications, and then it would take the form and put it into a GUI. So it's Visual Web GUI. It was kind of interesting.
I don't know that. Okay, cool. Let me see the questions. Oh, I didn't share my screen when you stopped, but I had nothing to share. That's good. I don't know what will be displayed in this case. I think the admin needs to be kept simple. Okay, that's what we said. We agree. Why don't I have a see more link here? It's cut. Okay. The topic. What else? Nothing. Anyone has any question? At least we got some from William. Thank you, William. No question? No comment? All good? Okay, well, then we'll make it short today. Thank you, everyone. See you on Thursday for a triage, on Tuesday for the next meeting, and it won't be a holiday. No, it will be good because Monday will be holiday in Labor Day in the States. So see you on Tuesday. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.